So, let me explain what happened, but first, hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Plains. What you saw in the intro is me using 4 of the exact same tanks in terms of weight, transmission, tracks, aka the entire tank except for the engine is the same. It weighs the same exact 40 tons, has the same exact track layout. The only difference is the engine, which as you can see is a 912 kilowatts in the V10 engine, 10 cylinders, V configuration. It is 730 kilowatts, or pretty much exactly 1000 horsepower in the V8 configuration. It is about 750 horsepower in the V6. Pretty much exactly 500 horsepower in the V4. So you would think that the length of gradient that they can traverse on 15 degrees is different, or one of them would make up the gradient entirely. But none of them do. And as you saw in the intro, it effectively looks like I'm doing it with exactly the same tank. If I didn't have put on different camos, and yeah, told you that was a different engine, because as you can see, if I load the V10 variant, it just looks like I'm loading a different camouflage, even though this one has like 2.5 times the power. In terms of which of the 4 tanks should make it up the gradient, it is the V10. The V10, if you calculated, the transmission has a 12:1 reduction ratio, and the tracks have a 0.6 meter diameter sprocket, meaning that the radius of the sprocket is 0.3 meters, which means the engine torque is multiplied in the transmission by 12, and then divided by 0.3 meters because of the sprocket diameter, which it comes out that the engine torque is multiplied by 40 in total, which makes a pretty ridiculous 148,400 newtons, which translates to a total torque, or a total pulling force in first gear, of 14.84 tons, not counting drivetrain losses and track resistance. And you couple that with having to output about 12 tons of traction to make it up this incline. Let me calculate that. Sorry, 10.35 tons to make it up the incline. You can see this thing has essentially 40% excess torque to make it up the hill, which isn't, which allows for very generous drivetrain losses. But if I drive up the hill, it doesn't make it. And as you saw in the intro, I lined all 4 tanks up with one wheel exactly here, the first road wheel, and gunned it up the hill, and it looked exactly the same. Which makes no sense, because physics-wise, like, this tank should have made it up the hill. The V8 version should have stalled at the top, and the V6 and V4 shouldn't really have made it up the slope entirely, with the V6 having just enough torque to make it up the 10-degree slope in theory, and the V5 having enough torque to make it up, the V6 having enough torque to make it up the 10-degree slope. As you can see, I can start on a 10-degree slope, but I cannot start on a 15-degree slope. And they do have different top speeds, so there is some simulation of different amounts of driving force. So my theory is that what happened is I have exceeded the maximum traction that the tracks can actually deliver. And because the drivetrain simulation is probably still quite simple, the game engine goes, well, you are only allowed to put down X amount of traction, we will just avoid the rest. And it happens that it just isn't possible to get up a 15-degree incline with the current type of tracks that I have on this tank. In conclusion, I would like the developer to add something where, you can see your track slipping if you would, have excess drivetrain, excess engine torque available, but there's not enough traction. Instead of the vehicle just bogging down. So you can see this thing is pretty mighty fast for a World War II tank. This thing does make a good 40 kilometers per hour in a straight line. So yeah. Now the thing is that the other tanks really didn't go much slower. The fourth cylinder struggled to do 35, but there was a huge amount of difference there. So yeah, my conclusion is that there's something horky-borky going on in the drivetrain simulation. Which is why I'm making this video, because as you saw in the intro, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Because like 15 tons of traction force should make it up a 20-degree slope with the current reduction or so. So yeah. So far I'd say thank you guys for watching. And please don't hate too hard on the developer, because it's one dude who does all of the coding, and I think it's really, really impressive that, what he's managed to achieve this far. Individual road wheels, everything, so, I think this game has a huge amount of potential, which is why I'm making this video, because I'd like to highlight something which can be improved. So yes, thank you very much for watching. Please support the developer of this game, because I would love this thing to be actually realized as a full AAA-like game. And goodbye.